in the city of Philly, where the birds take flight. Eagle swag on the rise each and every night. Tone and Markus got the scoop ready to ignite. From the lanes of South Street to the Broad Street lights. Dashing like a running back, hitting every play. Blind guys in the zone, never led astray. Talking touchdowns, talking game day. Huddle around the mic, hear what they gotta say. Fly like an eagle soars in the sky. Tone and Markus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry. Fly like an eagle soars in the sky. Tone and Markus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. Y'all know the vibes, y'all know the energy. We appreciate y'all for being here. You guys are tuned into your weekly Eagles pregame show featuring Coach Markus from Pro Fan Talk and yours truly, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. The goal here is to get you guys ready for game day, to get you guys ready for wartime. You know, it's a divisional matchup, NFC East, of course, Eagles, Commanders. This is going to be a fun game. Eagles are 12-2 on a 10-game winning streak, the greatest winning streak they've ever experienced in franchise history. And the Washington Commanders, they are 9-5 on the NFL season. A young football team, that's been figuring it out little by little. They were on a 3-game losing streak, and now they're on a two-game winning streak. And they won their game out of the bye against the Saints. And now they face us. So this is going to be really exciting. Both teams have been playing well as of late. Both quarterbacks have been playing well. And for the most part, these teams are as healthy as they possibly can be now. Obviously, both teams are missing guys, their fair share of guys. But at this point in the season, man, for these rosters to look how they look now, it's a blessing.
Yeah, it's you got to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. Lucky for us, we are on the good side of that, as opposed to a team like Detroit, who's on the exact opposite. But things like that can turn on you real quick. It's the luck of the draw, the flip of the coin. And for the most part, we have been on the good side of that. We had a little scare last week with Landon Dickerson. AJ got dinged up a little bit. I didn't even realize he was dinged up like that until somebody asked him about it. I was like, okay, it's a little bit more serious than I thought. Right. And even looking at what happened yesterday with that kid from Texans, that was horrible.
Yeah, you're talking about Tank Dell.
Is that Tank Dell?
Right?
Yeah,
Tank Dell.
That was absolutely horrible. And he didn't do anything. It was just one of those things, man. The body's in the wrong place at the wrong time with force applied. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's not a rule you can put into place that helps that. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm saying all that to say we've been on the good side of that for the most part. We've had our issues, but we had our issues early, and that seems to benefit you towards the end, especially when you're playing as well as you are, getting people back. I believe, I'm not sure, is Bryce Huff on the roster today? Is he coming back this week, or we hold him out?
So he still has the cast on his hands. So his window has been activated. His 21-day practice window has been activated, but he won't play today. Most likely he'll make his return next week. I believe that is against the Cowboys, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah. But Marcus, you're right. I mean, it's a violent game, and you watch these guys, run up and down this field. You watch these guys in the trenches. And you just see how nasty it gets in there, right? How physical it gets in there. And it's so easy for things to not go your way. And for the Philadelphia Eagles to make it to this point, and they're still built the way they're built, it is a blessing. And like you said, things happened earlier in the season for them. Prayers up to Tank Dell, man. Again, that was a freak injury. Hopefully his career can continue beyond it. We've seen career-ending injuries like the Alex Smith one. He did make his return, but he really wasn't the same guy.
Never the same. Was never the same.
So again, prayers up to Tank Dell. And regardless of the rivalry today, regardless of the beef, regardless of the trash talk we do, right? The last thing we want is for guys to get hurt. We want guys to be as healthy as possible. We want guys to be able to make it home on their own strength. You feel what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely.
and look, the reality is people can lose their life in this game, right? Damar Hamlin, he had to be resuscitated several times. So this game is not for the faint of heart. This game is not for the weak. This game is not for the fearful. You know, you can't play scared out there. You got to play like your hair is on fire and play like it's your last game. And we're going to have a good game today, man. But as far as injuries go, as it pertains to the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm looking at the injury report right now, and game status is still to be determined for a couple guys. But regardless, the most recent injury report indicates that Saquon Barkley was a full participant on Friday. Mekhi Becton was a full participant. A.J. Brown was limited, but he says he is playing. He's been dealing with a knee, and he's also been resting throughout the week. Now, we did see him tweak his ankle in that Pittsburgh game. Sidney Brown was a full participant. He's questionable for this game. Britton Covey was a full participant on Friday, but he's out for this game. Landon Dickerson was limited. They actually had all the offensive line guys, keeping it very light this week. And we know Landon did suffer some sort of knee injury.
Yeah.
In the previous game. Bryce Huff, he's out today, but he was limited throughout this week. Jalen Hurts, full participant. We know he's been battling the left finger. Lane Johnson, full participant. Cam Jurgens, full participant. Jordan Mulatto, full participant. Devontae Smith, full participant. Now, as it pertains to the Washington Commanders, right, their situation is a little bit more murky than ours. They have a lot of guys who are either questionable, out, or it's unspecified right now. Basically, a game time decision. So, their guard, Sam Cosmi, he was a full participant. His game status is to be determined, but it's likely he'll play. Zach Ertz was a limited participant on Thursday and Friday. He's questionable for the game. He's been dealing with a concussion in the shoulder. Jonathan Allen, he was limited on Friday. He's fresh off of IR, but he's out. Kind of similar to Bryce Huff's situation. Was limited all week, but they're going to hold about one more week. Zane Gonzalez, the kicker, he was a full participant, so he should be back for them. Jeremy Chin, safety, full participant on Friday. He's still questionable with a concussion. Michael Dieter, center, full participant. Klein Farrell, limited participant with a knee, so he could be questionable as well.
What happened to the center?
So they have he's dealing with the ankle. He's dealing with an ankle.
Okay.
So we'll see how he fares dealing with guys like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, right? But their second best wide receiver, in my opinion, Luke McCaffrey, he was limited throughout the week, and he was a full participant on Friday. I think he'll be playing today as well. He was dealing with a shoulder. Deron Payne, he was limited all week. He was a full participant on Friday. He's been dealing with a back. He's their nose tackle. Then Dante Fowler Jr., their linebacker, was dealing with a groin. He was a full participant Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and a full participant on Friday. He's kind of been up and down throughout the week. But the one injury that stands out to me, obviously not having Jonathan Allen hurts. You could potentially be without Zach Ertz depending on the concussion protocol. But Deron Payne, that one stands out to me because although he was a full participant on Friday, at that position, at that size, dealing with a back injury, that can be a little tricky. What's your thoughts on that?
It can be very tricky. Anytime you're in the interior and you're dealing with back and or ankle injury, that's why I asked about the center. That can pose problems because you're talking about things that affect you every way you move, every way your body moves, your back, your hamstrings, and your ankles. So there's no way to get around that. But when you're talking about back, especially when you're talking about a big guy, we'll see, because at the end of the day, they're going to shoot him up. Mm-hmm. They're going to give him something, and he ain't going to feel it. So might be ugly for him on the other side, but plenty of people have done that before. So it's all about your pain threshold and what you can put up with.
Yeah. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's a good point. They're definitely going to shoot him up. Trust me, we've seen that with Patrick Mahomes, right? All of a sudden, the ankles in distress. All of a sudden, my man's running for 15-yard touchdowns, right?
Exactly. So they got stuff for that.
For sure. Now, I want to revisit the previous matchup between the Eagles and the Commanders. That game was very interesting. It felt like the Eagles were primed to lose that game, right? Jake Elliott is missing kicks. It just seemed like everything that could go wrong was beginning to go wrong. Washington's running game was kind of picking up steam a little bit. But
Yeah, Brian Robinson had a good game.
right. He had 16 carries for 63 yards and 1 touchdown. Most of that came in the first half. So they kind of bunkered down and stopped his effectiveness. Austin Eckler was the real killer in that game. He had 8 receptions at 89 yards. Jaden Daniels went 22 for 32, 191 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was in constant distress in that game, in my humble opinion. I feel like the Eagles did a really good job being physical with him, knocking him off his spots. And also, I don't want to ignore the fact that he was nursing a rib injury throughout those weeks. So he really wasn't as effective on the ground. And he's been healthier as of late. And he's been playing very good football. Jalen Hurts in that previous game, 18 for 28, 221 passing yards. Didn't have a bad game. Was efficient. Didn't throw for any touchdowns. But he did run one in. This was another Saquon Barkley game where things pretty much went down to the wire, right? The score going into the fourth quarter was 10 Commanders, 6 Eagles. So the Commanders were pretty much in control of this game, right? The Eagles had a hard time finishing in the red zone. They were starting off slow like they've been doing all year. And they exploded in the fourth quarter for 20 points compared to Washington's 8 points, and they ultimately ended up winning the game 26-18. And if you factor in the 7 points Jake Elliott missed on the field goals and the extra point, the Eagles could have won this game 33-18. So when you put all that context into the pot, Marcus, how does that previous matchup hold any bearing to this upcoming one?
A little bit, but not much. Because we are 2 totally different teams. I've been listening to a lot of Washington commentary. And the funny thing is they're not wrong, but there can be 2 truths in the situation. They did leave a lot of meat on the bone. They did make some mistakes that, cost them. Specifically, we flipped the field on them in the fourth quarter, and that was the momentum turn of the game. We took over after that when Jaden Daniels bobbles a snap, scrambles to the right, and Zach Bond lights him up. We get the ball back with good field position. That was the swing of the game, and then it was Saquon left, Saquon right. So from their perspective, they left opportunities on the field. They could have done some things differently to change the outcome of that game, and they're not wrong. However, looking on the other side of the ball, and this is where people tend to forget this, it is not a snapshot of what you just did only. The guys on the other side of the ball get paid too. And in this situation, Philadelphia is looking at the same situation, what we did different, what we should have done, the missed points, the missed field goals, things of that nature that would have changed the outlook and the strategy of the game going into the second half and into the fourth quarter. So you can say that's true on both teams because we left a lot of meat on the bone. We could have done some things differently. If the ball had bounced our way, if Jake Elliott makes the field goals, you're looking at a totally different outcome of that game. And not for nothing, our defense is much better than the last time we met. Absolutely. The offense is playing much better than the last time we met. And this is the thing that I believe Philadelphia has an advantage.
Okay.
And this is where, the no one likes us and the underdog stuff comes into play. I think it's actual, a tangible advantage for us. They hear all of the national rhetoric, the problems in the locker room and all of that type of stuff. We know better. We know what's going on. We know how it looks, but we know what we're doing, how we're operating, and the way this offense and this defense is playing now is incredible. But they don't see it like that. They look at the national news and they just stop right there. And that's where you can't do that. And that's why I use this example. It's like, you see one of your old school friends in Philly. You ain't seen them in 13 years, but they in the same place doing the same things they were doing when you left. So you don't know what the growth is. You don't know. All you have a snapshot in your mind of a person in a place doing a thing. You don't know the other stuff. And I think a lot of people on the outside looking into Philadelphia, they get that perspective and they don't really look deeper than that. Don't give me you got a friend in Philadelphia that told you. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a very nuanced conversation. Absolutely. I like Jay Glazer, but I was like, really, dude, stop it. So, and then I heard what's that? Chris Sims. Chris Sims talking about, he heard that Jalen Hurts rides on Jeffrey Lurie's private plane and that's causing problems. Really? Who'd you hear that from? And what kind of problems is it causing? So people tend to take the low-hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. And you already know it's a very nuanced conversation, especially when you're dealing with Philadelphia. And now the one thing that I've learned is very easy now to tell who's going for the clickbait and who's going just for the sensationalism and who's really doing their homework.
Right.
So we benefit from that. And it always comes back to, you can think that's a problem if you want to. You go ahead and do that. And then you see what happened last week. And don't forget, Saquon Barkley is still ready. AJ Brown is still ready. Don't forget about Smitty on the other side. Mm-hmm. So it always comes back to us, and pick your poison. And either way you slice it, it's not going to be good for you. So y'all do what you want to do. But right now, Jalen Hurts, I think whatever issues they had throwing the ball against Carolina has been solved. And I don't expect it to be any different. And you still, by the way, got to worry about Saquon. You still, by the way, need to worry about Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and Zach Bond and Quinyon Mitchell. We still got Tiamat over here in Philly. You got what is Tiamat? A 7-headed dragon? You know what I'm saying? There's nowhere to go. And we got something for you. The only thing we got to do, and Tone, I say this every daggone week, just keep doing what got you here. That's it. You ain't got to change a thing. Keep doing what got us here. Control the line of scrimmage. Jalen Carter, keep commanding a double team. Milt Williams is going to eat. Nolan Smith is going to eat. Josh Sweat's going to eat. It's working. And ain't nobody figured out a way to stop it yet.
Yeah, I think you said a lot. You said a lot of interesting things, right? But the one thing that stands out to me is, like you said, just do what got you here, right? And it's funny, although last week, we had the most pass attempts since like week 5 or something like that, or week 4. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 32 times. When you really look at it and look at how the game transpired, even though the Philadelphia Eagles came out with a commitment to execute their passing game, they were still very much committed to their run game as well. And I think it's forgotten or lost on some people that last week, Saquon Barkley didn't play the entire second quarter. Entire second quarter. And he still managed to lead that game with 19 rush attempts, 21 touches on the game. Yeah. Right? And then AJ Brown still had his double-digit targets. Devontae Smith still had double-digit targets. I mean, the Eagles' offense was essentially clicking on all cylinders. The only thing that didn't necessarily click was the running game on a consistent basis, right? It worked, and it worked when it was supposed to work, right? Let's not pretend Saquon didn't break off a 20-yarder there or a 15-yarder there. Then, and Kenny Gainwell didn't do what he needed to do in the backfield, right? Affecting the game in his own way. Some different games take on a different complexion. They take on a different identity, right? They're going to call for different things. And when you think about the way the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing up to this point, and then you sprinkle in that Steelers game, I just don't want people to I don't want people to expect that every week. And what I mean by that is this Eagles team built in the trenches. Saquon Barkley is your best player. Some people would say AJ Brown. You can make an argument. I'm not here to put one above the other. My point is, though, Saquon Barkley has been your money man all year. And you want Jalen Hurts to do his job, obviously. You want AJ Brown to get his opportunities and Devontae Smith to get his opportunities, right? But Saquon is the X factor. He's the game breaker. He's the guy that can have maybe the largest impact on that Washington Commanders defense, right? Washington, although they have a fairly solid pass defense, the reason that is because teams have been able to run on them, and they haven't felt the need to overly compensate with the pass, right? As it pertains to the Commanders, they're giving up almost 5 yards an attempt on the ground. That's 28th in the league. Teams are averaging 132 yards per game on the ground against them. That's 25th in the league. They have a hard time stopping the run. And when you have a guy like Saquon Barkley in the fold, you got to feed that. And I also want to make this clear too, right? Because you know, the national guys always say we're going to be monitoring this Eagle situation between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, and you know, it's
Yeah.
not things are not all well in Philly just because one game happened. What people fail to understand is this was never about opportunity. This was never about targets. More so, this was
Yeah.
about taking advantage of the opportunities that we do create.
When it comes,
Right?
absolutely.
When it comes, hey, when we draw this play up, let's execute it. Especially when we know we're better than this, right? Especially when you got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts as your quarterback, and you know what you're capable of. Hey, we know what we know what we can do to get these guys open. Let's run that play. Let's do what we got to do. Hey, Jalen, deliver the rock, right? But as far as Saquon Barkley, you know, in this game, he is the one that can really crack this game wide open, in my opinion. He's the one that can have Washington on their heels.
But remember, Tone, didn't we talk about this 3-4 weeks ago? Remember we were talking about every now and then the Eagles offensive coordinators, they still want to remind people we can still throw the ball. And then you forget what got you there. We talked about that. And what I agree with you. What I don't want to do is go back to that again and say, okay, we can throw the ball. Because I'm like, hey, Saquon needs to have about 25 to 30 carries or 20 to 25 carries a game. Carries, not touches. I want him to run the ball.
And again,
right?
Still had it in that Steelers game,
Still
missing the
had
entire quarter.
Yeah,
and everybody still got the opportunity. So this offense can be a well-oiled machine, can be a well-rounded product.
Correct, because if you take that when he was out, if you take most of them carries that went to Gainwell and give those to Saquon, that would even things out. And to your point, he still had a good game. He still almost scored. I thought he was going to score on that one. I think it was like a 21-yard run. It got us down to like the 3-yard line.
Yeah.
So he still had his opportunities. And after watching the film of the game, our offensive line was okay. There were a lot of plays. I want to say there were probably 3 or 4 plays specifically that I'm thinking about where if our offensive lineman holds a block for half a second longer, or if they get just a piece of a guy, because Minkah Fitzpatrick had a hell of a game. They were using him on run blitz, bringing him up as an extra linebacker. He was the guy that was trying to disrupt Saquon. And for the most part, he did a good job. But they were, based on what I saw, there were a couple of plays where if the lineman if Dickerson just got just a piece of somebody and getting Saquon cut back to the left one time, and I think the DB just got enough of his ankle to trip him up.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well, I mean, but here's the thing: like, it's you got to give credit to that defense too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That just speaks to the level that the Steelers defense has been playing at. That just speaks to that, because I feel like against any other defense, Saquon does whatever he wants to do. But again, you went up against arguably the best run defense in football, and you still managed to accumulate over 130 yards rushing on him, right? So you are right. There was plenty of food left on the table for the Philadelphia Eagles in the running game. And
but my point is, even though you are 100% correct, there were still opportunities for big plays, and we were that close. That's my point. And it wasn't because of what Pittsburgh was doing. It was because it was self-inflicted. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm like, that meeting room, watching that film, I'm going to imagine that Stoutland was probably not very happy on a lot of those plays because of the potential that could have had if the feet were right, if you wheeled those hips around, if you got a piece of that guy and could have held that block 0.3 seconds longer. So I'm looking at it from standpoints like that. Yes, Pittsburgh did have a good game.
They're talented up front. They're talented up there.
They're supposed to. But there were some things that we could have done and we didn't. Or we could have done better and we didn't. That could have sprung Saquon and could have sprung Gainwell and even Jalen Hurts on a couple of situations. But it just didn't work out that way. So even with all of that, even with the win streak, we are in a great situation because when you watch the film of the game, there are still things we can do to get better. That means we still are not at the top yet. And that's where you want to be. We still growing. We still getting better. Everything's not where it should be. And even now, when we still making these internal mistakes, they still can't stop us. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be.
It's interesting because I guess I got to ask you this then, right? Would you say, although obviously won the game, pretty much dominated for the most part. Would you say good Steelers or bad Eagles? And again, obviously they weren't bad in that game, but I mean, as far as like you said, Eagles, that offensive line in particular, left a lot on the table.
Mhm.
Would you say? Let me say this. Would you say better Steelers than better Eagles in that situation?
No, it was better Eagles because based on what I saw, and you have to think realistically.
I guess what I was trying to say is who forced that action, right? It was strictly us missing opportunities, or hey, they're good. Maybe we overcompensated a little bit, or maybe we were trying to, keep up with certain guys.
Not necessarily, because again, you got to look realistically. Even you can say the same thing about the Carolina game.
Okay.
Yes, we were a better team, and a lot of the issues we had in that game wasn't because of Carolina. That was because of us. So when I say think realistically, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to make plays. You got good players. You got a good coach. They are a good team.
Got it.
We are a better team. So I usually look at it like this. He who makes the least amount of mistakes usually wins. So when you watch the film and you look at something and say, okay, you get a minus on that. You get a double minus because you missed the block and they got the sack.
Okay.
You get the plus because you got 4 yards. You get the double plus because you got 10 plus yards. So it's all about who makes the least amount of mistakes. We get a 10-yard run, but gets called back because of a holding penalty. Who's that on? Is that on Pittsburgh for playing good defense? No, that's a self-inflicted wound. So you're going to have the checks and balances, but ultimately the team that makes the least amount of mistakes in play is usually the one that's going to win. And I think it ended up in our favor because now you can ground and pound. Now you can, as long as you're going forward, there's usually, when do they call holding most of the time? On pass plays when quarterbacks are scrambling. So if you're running the ball and everybody's moving forward and you're knocking everybody out of that box, the potential for those type of penalties goes down. You're still going to have them, but now everybody's in the groove. You're going in the same direction. You're pounding the line of scrimmage and they can't stop you. So now you know what you got to do. And it gets a little bit more difficult for the offense to stop us. Because you look at that move that Kenny Gainwell did when he did the spin move to get that first down. Pittsburgh was in perfect position to make that play. That should have been a tackle for a loss. But it wasn't because
guys made a play.
Our playmakers were making plays. And that's what it all comes down to. There's going to be a point in time where Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to come up, he shoots the gap, and he gets Saquon. But there's another time where he didn't make it. You just got to beat your guy more times than they beat you. It's going to even out because, again, other guys on the other side of the ball get paid too. And people tend to forget about that. And it's like, nah, you got to be able to execute. That's why when you hear these guys in the locker room, when you hear what A.J. Brown said a couple weeks ago that started all this mess, he was right. And it comes down to opportunities when you have them. It's not about making opportunities and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. But something's going to pop. Somebody's going to take a step late. Somebody's going to fall. Somebody's going to miss a block. All of that type of stuff. If an offensive lineman misses a block and the linebacker is in the quarterback's face, but Jalen Hurts does an incredible move, who is that on? Is that on the Pittsburgh Steelers for not finishing the sack? Or is that on Jalen Hurts for making a big play like he's done many times before? So it's all about opportunities and making the most of it, and your team making the least amount of mistakes or shoot yourselves in the foot. And as we go on, those mistakes have diminished, and it gives us a better opportunity to win.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've definitely grown to being one of the more disciplined football teams as far as executing the game plan throughout this season. And one part of that Steelers game plan, the game plan that the Eagles executed against the Steelers, that is, was utilizing a lot of empty sets, right? Empty backfield, right? They had everybody lined up on the line of scrimmage. And what it allowed was for Jalen Hurts to diagnose quicker pre-snap. It forced the Steelers to show their hand much earlier than they probably would have liked, right? We didn't see too much play action in that game.
Right.
I'm curious, based off of everything you know about this Commanders team and what we've seen from the Philadelphia Eagles as of late, what do you think is going to be their approach entering this game? Do you think we're going to see a lot more of their no huddle offense, which has been one of the best in the NFL, right? They've been very dominant in catching teams on their heels, not only in the empty set, but also just the hurry ups and keeping things moving and just constantly just pounding and dominating time of possession. What do you think will be the Eagles' approach in this game against this Commanders team?
I think they might bring in do a little bit more nickel and have an extra DB in there, but that's going to be the chess match. Everybody's in that situation. You look at what we did last week when we went tempo. Jalen Hurts getting the ball out of his hands quick. On the flip side of that, Jaden Daniels is doing the same thing. They've been very good at it. And same rules apply for Washington as in Philadelphia. If it's working for you, why are you going to change it?
Right.
So it's up to us to adjust and run it till they stop it. So we got to figure out a way to stop it. I think the matchup you got to look at right now, are they going to try to go to Terry McLaurin? Because he's got to be itching after what happened last time with Quinyon Mitchell. They're going to be itching to get him in the game. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. I don't know about Zach Ertz because that's something Zach Ertz had a pretty good game against us. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that kind of
all right game. Not
most of those came in the fourth quarter when they were desperate.
You're right. I thought about that right after.
Most of those passing yards went to Austin Eckler in the first half.
Yeah. So, but that's another thing. Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal. When you don't see nothing open, where's your check down? And we've been yelling and screaming at Jalen and Kellen Moore, like, yo, you got the best check down player in the damn NFL with Saquon Barkley. Get him the ball. Doesn't matter if it's a handoff. Doesn't matter if it's a screen pass. Just get the ball in his hands and let him do something. You know what I mean? So to me, it always comes back to keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. What did we talk about last week after all of the A.J. Brown stuff? How do you get A.J. Brown the ball? Run a quick slant. What did I say about the quick slants? Every time he gets a quick slant, he is going to break a tackle. And what did he do?
Many times.
And everybody, see, that's the beauty of it. Everybody knows it's coming. You can't stop it.
And it's too many people to game plan for. I mean, let's be honest about this. The Steelers made a concerted effort to sell out and stop Saquon Barkley. They played a lot of single high man. And that's just a recipe for disaster against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. And Dan Quinn's defense, they tend to play more single high man than most teams, kind of similar to the Steelers, right? Again, I know they added Marshawn Lattimore to the fold. He's a good player, a Pro Bowler, so on and so forth. Like he's no slouch at all. But at the same time, I just believe when you throw Saquon Barkley into the gumbo, throw A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith into the gumbo, Jalen Hurts, this offensive line, you got to pick your poison. In my humble opinion, I feel like at this point, the Eagles are so good. It's not about how the Eagles want to win. The opponent essentially has to choose how they want to lose.
Yeah. And every time whenever we're in a situation where we're pulling our hair out and throwing shit across the room because we're frustrated, is because the Eagles aren't doing what they're supposed to do. It's not because somebody is just blasting our offensive line and getting to Jalen Hurts. Right. It's because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And that's the frustrating part. How many times, I always tweet this all the time, watching everybody else's game when I'm like, how come it seems like everybody else can run their running back off tackle but us?
You said you said that during that game the other day.
Yeah, so different things like that, it frustrates us. But it's on us. It's not, oh my God, somebody is blowing up my ladder. Y'all gonna have to get him out of there. He ain't getting it done. We don't never have those type of conversations. So I'm expecting us to go in and continue to do what we've been doing, establish and win and dominate that line of scrimmage. On offense, our offensive line has been relatively good. It was a couple of suspect plays that I saw last week that we could have been better at. So I'm expecting the offensive line in particular to be much better this week. And defensive line, your whole crux is to stop Jalen Carter. And that's why I asked you about that center. If you got a bad wheel and Jalen Carter's coming at you, guess what? You got to get help. You got to get help. Okay, so that means somebody on the edge is one-on-one. That's where you win the battle. That's why Jalen Carter is so important, because he commands a double team. Nobody is letting Jalen Carter go one-on-one. Nobody. So that means you lose a man in your interior because somebody's got to help on him. So that means they have to bring somebody else on the outside end, usually a tight end or a big receiver, to help chip on the edges. And once again, so now that's somebody that's not going out in the pass pattern. That's where we win that battle, and we still getting pressure on them. So, because now you got to choose, well, which side you doing it? You doing it on Milt Williams' side? You doing it on Nolan Smith's side? You doing it on Zach Bond's side? What are you going to do? So, because of everybody playing well and Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis really commanded that attention in the center, that leaves your outsides a little bit of elbow room to really do some things. And again, you got to pick your poison because you can't stop everybody. We are in that situation. How many teams have we come across that had that same situation? Where you got to really worry about multiple people on the line of scrimmage, whether it's offense or defense.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, I want to talk more about that defense, right? I love that you took it there. I just got one last question about offense, and it's more so Jalen Hurts specific.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Jalen Hurts learned the most coming out of that Steelers game? Again, factor in everything that's going on from from that Panthers game up until now. How that Panthers game went, how that Steelers game went. What do you think Jalen Hurts learned the most? Not just about himself, but maybe about this team and how they should win.
That's a good question, because I'm not sure he learned it. Maybe he got reminded. And again, maybe it ain't him. Because for me,
learned what exactly?
For me, I'm looking. The first thing I want to say is, if he learned anything,
okay,
if you want to say it like that, in my perspective, he learned how successful this offense can be when he gets rid of the ball in less than 3 seconds. Not scrambling, not get rid of the ball. If your first 3 options aren't open, your running back should be number 3, at worst number 4, so you can dump the ball. But get rid of the ball, and I think he did that much better. He was getting rid of the ball quick.
Yeah.
But that comes from, if you're getting rid of the ball quick, that means you have quick routes, quick pass patterns. We just mentioned the quick slants and things of that nature. The middle routes across the middle. Devontae Smith going across the middle. The middle is wide open depending on what kind of zone he's in, because if you think about it, if you got the linebackers and they both drop back in the zone in the middle, when they drop back like that. Nobody drops back straight.
Right.
They drop back so you can cover as much ground as you can, and the middle is always open. And we took advantage of that. So, and there was a lot of good throws that Jalen had where it wasn't a lot of space. He put the ball where it needed to be. And that was one of the things that a lot of people, well, he's not a good throwing quarterback. He can't make the throws. And I'm like, yeah, the hell he can. For whatever reason, he just wasn't throwing the ball. He wasn't letting it go. And he learned that if he just lets the ball go quickly, your guy will be there. So maybe he learned to trust a little bit more, but I'm very reluctant to say that he didn't before. I just think he had a bad game.
I agree. And the thing is, like you said, he can make the throws, right?
Yes.
And I think the reason we've gotten to this point in terms of how he's played, and I mean, it's well reported that he is prone to hold on to the ball, right? It's been a story last year and even during the Super Bowl year. Granted, he was getting rid of the ball quicker than he was in 2023, but throughout this season, right? I think what's happened was what has happened is, with their running game working the way it is, I think listen, they have access to all the same stats we have access to, right?
Absolutely.
And it's well reported that when the Eagles don't turn the ball over, they win the game. So I think that's something that's kind of lived rent-free in his mind a little bit. He's been playing very conservative, running the offense, trusting Saquon Barkley to do Saquon Barkley things, and making the throws he needs to make, right? That Panthers game obviously was just a bad game. But I think that's probably why we've seen Jalen Hurts maybe not take too many chances with the ball because he understands that, hey, as long as I don't turn this ball over, we're gonna win the football game.
Right.
And that can affect a guy's clock a little bit. So I think, like you said, if anything, he learned in this game, hey, when I get rid of this ball quick, hey, nobody can stop us. And when I'm decisive, when I know where I'm going with the football, nobody can stop us. I think that's the next step for Jalen Hurts in his development, right? And I think we're seeing it in front of our very eyes. That clock, right? Tom Brady even said it when he talked to him after the game. Tom Brady said, "Listen, yeah, I haven't seen you process that quickly," and I'm paraphrasing, but basically he was saying, "I haven't seen you process that quickly in a long time." Just that confidence throwing with the ball. When you're playing like that, I think you're unstoppable. And Tom Brady doesn't just say anything just to say it, right?
He don't just throw that out there.
Yeah, he's very critical of the game. He's always been open about how he feels where the game is going in terms of how quarterbacks have been developed, so on and so forth. He made it very clear. When you're playing like that, I think you're unstoppable.
Right. And I think, and here's the other thing, and this is where I kind of shift some of the criticism to Kellen Moore.
Okay.
Because for as much as we will get on Jalen for taking the sacks and not seeing receivers and stuff like that, and especially when he rolls out to the right or to the left, when you go back and watch the tape and you look at the pass pattern, you look at the receivers' routes, and it's like, why is everybody running 10 yards down the field? Who's got the short route? If a blitz comes, who's the hot?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been asking those questions for a while. So, and it seemed like against Pittsburgh, we had those answers. And you know what? Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, they all said the same thing. We weren't on the same page. And I understand that. Because I've been in a situation where, you looking to throw the hot, it's like, oh, you weren't ready. I saw it in the game yesterday against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes throws a low ball because Travis Kelce doesn't look right off the line of scrimmage. And he was expecting him to look for that hot, but he just didn't. Sometimes games like that just happen. And they had to get it right. And it obviously it snowballed into everything else. But those were very simple corrections that could have been made. It wasn't the world is ending. That's just what the narrative was, because everybody wants everybody to be happy-go-lucky, happy tree friends and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of times the dynamics in the locker room are very nuanced. Everybody don't like everybody, and that's okay. But everybody knows who you got to work with. You don't like everybody on your job, but you got to work with certain people at certain times to get it done. Period. You ain't got to go out for a drink afterwards. Right. Just make sure you get it done on the field, and that's what it's all about. But because of this era we're in, social media, everybody wants to make a story about everything. And, of course, the national media ran with it, and that's what I was talking about earlier. When you have that perspective on the outside looking in, you're going to grab the low-hanging fruit, regardless of if it's true or not.
That's a good point. Let's transition back to that defense, though, right? You mentioned Jalen Carter, just how dominant he's been and how teams are at this point, they're game planning for him now. Like he's earned that right. He's earned that respect in his league that teams are, quite frankly, game planning for him. But like on the offensive side, when you got so many guys who are capable of doing their job and capable of taking advantage of the opportunity, a la Nolan Smith, who's having an amazing season right now. I believe he has 5.5 sacks on the season.
Yeah.
Josh Sweat has 8 on the season. Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat, they lead the team in sacks right now. And then you got Milton Williams, who's giving you 5 in a limited role at that, right? In a rotational role. He's going to make a lot of money. So the Jalen Carter effect is insane for one. But I think the reason why this team has been playing, in particular the defense, I think one of the reasons that this defensive line has been playing at such a high level and why they've been playing so free and with confidence is that Jalen Carter has taken that next step in terms of his, I would say, leadership and commitment to his body.
Right.
Now, some people will say, Jalen Carter has his moments of weakness, sure, right? He's still one of those kind of players that's, passionate, emotional. He's what you see is what you get, right? He's a very violent player, right? So that comes off on the field. And I told people, or I asked people rather, would you rather have to pull him off the ledge or push him to the ledge? And I always want a guy on my team that I got to pull him back, not push him. It's hard to motivate guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to talk a guy off the ledge than to push him on it. So when you think about that aspect of his game, and then you factor in that not only does he lead the defensive line in snaps, he leads the NFL. And when it comes to defensive line snaps, right? When a guy is on the field that often and he's that dominant and he's showing his level of conditioning and commitment, not just in spurts, but for a continuous game, what does that do for the guys around him? Not just tangibly with their effect on the game, but the intangibles, the mentally.
Just gives you confidence. Just gives you confidence. Everybody, I know you. I don't know your family, but I guarantee you there's somebody in your family that you can call right now. Whatever the situation is, I need this. Hang up the phone, and you know it's going to get done.
That's very true.
Exactly. That's what Jalen Carter is turning into. Then you add on top of that your point perfectly, pulling somebody off the ledge. What happened to Jalen Carter the other day when he smacked the guy? And Cliff Hurt had to step in. That is the perfect example of what you're talking about. You got to pull him back because he knows. Because, yes, it could have cost us. That was a Derek Barnett moment. And that's the first thing I thought about. I was like, oh, I hope he does. I hope he's not going to be one of those guys that puts himself in trouble. Talented guy, but put himself in trouble because he has no discipline. That is a discipline issue. But Big Clint Hurt was there. I'm sure Nick Sirianni wanted to get a piece of him like he's supposed to. But Clint Hurt was protecting his player because he knows and understands the personality that you're dealing with. You don't deal with people, you deal with personality. So that was a perfect situation on all fronts. The head coach was about to say something because he needed to. The position coach had to step in because he needed to. And ultimately, the player knew he was wrong, so he made it right when he had to.
The word is Sirianni said something to him as soon as he left the field. And then he got the Clint Hurt. And then that's when Nick Sirianni doubled back and say, no, I still got more to say. I need to say to you.
Exactly.
Like Nick Sirianni, the word is Nick Sirianni kind of doubled back when he already said what he needed to say to him, came back, and Clint Hurt was like, hey, I got him, coach. I understand.
I got it.
I got him, coach. I feel you, coach, but I got him. Why do you think people – no, we know the answer to that. Let me not ask that question. We know why people are reading into it. I guess when you saw that on the sideline, that interaction, me personally, I didn't think much of it. I looked at it because I was reading Clint Hurt's lips, and I'm not a lip reader, but everything that I was getting off in that situation was, hey, coach, I hear you. I feel you. I got him, though. Let me handle him. I got you. I know, I know what to say to him. I'm a firm believer that, hey, just because you're my boss doesn't mean that you're the one who needs to deliver that particular message, right? You have people on your team. You have people you trust in your company to deliver specific messages to specific individuals, right? Because even though, I'm the leader, I sign a paycheck. Hey, I know my personnel. I know my staff. Hey, listen, Jimmy, I need you to go over there and speak to level 4. Speak to the guys on the 4th floor. I need you to deliver this message, right? Because they can relate to Jimmy. Jimmy used to work on the 4th floor, right? Jimmy knows what it's like to do their job. You feel what I'm saying? So Clint Hurt played the game, played on the defensive line, coached the defensive line for years, not just in college, but in the NFL, right? I think, am I tripping, but did Clint Hurt coach at the U?
Not sure. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I had to look that up. But the bottom line is he's been around the block. And he's the kind of guy you look at and he gets your respect instantly. Right? And even when he first got hired, he made it very clear that we're not pulling no punches with these guys. These guys gonna work. These guys
did coach at he was at Miami in 2003 and 2004. Grad assistant. Right.
So a guy being in an environment like that, he understands personalities.
Yes.
So again, yes, Nick Sirianni is the head coach, and if there's a situation where Nick Sirianni needs to talk to a guy, he should be able to talk to that guy, right? But what doesn't get talked about is Nick Sirianni already spoke to Jalen Carter prior to, and he just got a little greedy and wanted to double back. And Clint Hurt was just trying to say, listen, coach, I feel you, I got you, let me handle him. That's all that was. but people read into it as if, oh, Nick Sirianni doesn't have control over his team. This inner turmoil is going to affect the Eagles in the playoffs, so on and so forth, right? And I heard Kyle Brandt off of NFL Network. I really love what he does. I love his approach. He said something very interesting about the Eagles. He said, listen, right? The Eagles are like that couple that argue. They argue everywhere. They're in front of company. It's like, damn, how are these people together? And then you find out, oh, they're about to celebrate their 45th wedding anniversary. Their 50th wedding anniversary. They ain't going nowhere. They know it's all love. That is how they get shit done.
You know what though? I took issue with that.
Interesting.
Because that indicates that stuff like that happens all the time.
Fair enough. And I didn't take it like that, but I hear you though.
But the reason why I took issue is because that interaction with Clint Hurt happens everywhere. And that's every team.
But coach, that's my problem, right? You know, aside from the Kyle Brand part, right? Because I could respect your distaste for that. Why are people acting like, even guys that played this game before? You can tell when they get too detached from the field, when they get too detached from the locker room, when they've been wearing their suit and tie too damn long. You could tell. Because Chris Long, he spoke and said, hey, listen, that's nothing. That's normal. Like that, that's not I'm not worried about that at all. But then you got guys like Julian Edelman talking about how, hey, yeah, this is going to affect them in the playoffs, all this kind of stuff. It's like, hold on, wait, time's out, bro. Did you used to play this game or not? You was in the Bill Belichick situation. Like you know how critical it gets.
Exactly. So, and some of the characters you had on your team, like, stop playing like you act like this stuff never happened to the Patriots. You know what I mean? So, like, stop with that. And I think it's a situation, you know, I'm gonna try not to go into the social media rant, but that's what it comes down to. You got players that know better, but they gotta do a job and they gotta play up to that job. So I don't, you know, again, they grabbing that low-hanging fruit.
No, how come coach, go cook. No. I need you to go in that rant. I need you to cook. You to cook.
Listen, how the new social media era says, if you say something wrong or inflammatory, you're going to get more traffic. And I think that's what everybody's leading into. Because some of those guys, you look at them, it's like, dude, you've been in the locker room. You know better than this. You look at some of the teams, like I look at like Teddy Bruschi and some of the other ones who were phenomenal players. But sometimes they're they want to put on that Boy Scout attitude, like they never had any mistakes and everything that I say is golden. And it's like, nah, man, it's all the different. They would never tell some of the shit that happened in their locker room because it's got to stay in the locker room because it would crumble everybody's perception of them. So they keep a lot of stuff in-house. And we came across a situation where it didn't happen and everybody got something to say. I don't want to hear nothing from Teddy Bruschi when you played for Belichick, as Big Hollis Thomas says all the time. You know what I mean? So y'all got y'all stuff too. So you got a nerve trying to put that out there like your way is the best way. It is not. Everybody know your personnel means you got to know every personality in there. Nobody had that energy when Travis Kelce damn near knocked Andy Reid down because he wasn't getting the ball. Nobody had that energy then. Nobody had the energy of a bad quarterback when Josh Allen went 9 for 30 in a loss to the Texans. Nobody had the energy then. Nobody had any energy for all of that nonsense that Deebo Samuels did the last 3 weeks out in San Francisco when you tried to smack one of your teammates during the game, the kicker. Come on, man. Now you're trying to bully your teammates and then you dropping passes. How come ain't nobody had that energy then? Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason, Philadelphia is the low-hanging fruit. Whenever we do something, it gets magnified. If there's a fight in the stands, it gets magnified. But you got fights in stands everywhere in the nation.
What?
A lot more than happens in Philadelphia. But for some reason, when it happens in Philly, everybody knows about it. You got what's the name? What's the linebacker for San Francisco? Warner.
Yes.
Warner's wife says, oh, she's scared to come in Philly. Really? Then stay where you are. If it's that bad, because I never had more respect for a fan base. And I know it wasn't everybody, but when I saw that video of that 49ers fan, that was like, you can't be a fan and go into Philly with thin skin. And he laid it out, and I was like, man, respect. because you just laid it out in a nutshell. Everybody wants to go to these games and have some type of they want what they see on social media. They want to take the cute pictures and the selfies and be done with it. Meanwhile, you got a lifelong fan that's been drinking for 3 quarters and a tailgate, and you got to take the good with the bad. But everybody has it, but it seems like all they want to do is act like it only happens in Philly. That's the type of stuff that frustrates me. And it's like everybody, to the original conversation about a lot of these guys on TV and stuff like that, they forget about that. I know what it's like if you play for the Giants. I know what the New York fans are like. Like, stop playing with me. And because most of the people don't see that, the only point of reference they have is what they see on television, which usually is something bad happened in Philly, or every year, faithfully, y'all want to talk about Santa Claus and snowballs. Like, man, that shit happened in the 60s. Stop with that. Like, I don't want to hear that. So a lot of people get on their soapbox, man. And it's like, y'all got to be realistic. There was a few people that were realistic about the AJ and Jalen situation, but it was so overshadowing, and it was creating so much traffic that everybody was going with the low-hanging fruit. We got problems here. Are they imploding? And even Stephen A. Smith, who spent 17 years in Philadelphia, he on that bandwagon is like, oh, they got problems in Philadelphia. Like, man, stop it.
They know. Markus, you preaching right now, and the reality is, I don't care what anybody says. There's no NFL fan base that's as committed to the product like the Philadelphia Eagles fans are. We are so locked in. We are so keyed in. Like, when you think about the Philadelphia experience, just entirely, right? Not just the fan base commitment to the team, but how large the media is, right? Yeah, Green Bay has a passionate fan base, but their media, as far as covering Green Bay, isn't as large as the Philly media, right? It's so much that goes into that pot, right? And when you think about the media, the size of the media that covers the Eagles in Philadelphia, the fan base, how committed we are, the blue collar attitude with Philadelphia, right? And how much we love this team. They know we selling out the link no matter if we losing games, right? So there's a level of passion that they take advantage of. And I've been a victim of it as well, right? But I've tried to remain disciplined, not just as a content creator, but also as a supporter and a spectator, that I know ultimately when they're coming up with these topics throughout the week, it's not because they care about the best interest of the fan, or they're trying to be, or they're trying to be accurate or factual or honest. They're trying to be inflammatory. They're trying to they're trying to sensationalize the normal, right? There's the Jalen Carter, Clint Hurst situation with Nick Sirianni. They're trying to sensationalize and inflame a situation that they're all very, very, very familiar with. But they got time to fill, and they need clicks, right? And also, when you think about it from the perspective of these networks are competing. So when you have a new show like The Facility that's in the same time slot as First Take, oh yeah, they're going to do everything possible to make sure they get those clicks, get those eyes on it. So what are we going to do?
Get that traffic, man.
What are we going to do? Oh, the Eagles are hot. The Eagles are winning. Oh, by the way, their fan base rides like no other. We're going to lock in on that. Dominique Foxworth, right? He has his own show, I believe, on ESPN News. Not even the main. Yeah. Not even ESPN 1 or not even.
I like Fox, man.
Yeah, I like him sometimes, but he took the approach of, oh, Jalen Hurts has pretty privilege, and then you start breaking it down and you start getting into the details.
I thought that was strictly tongue in cheek, man. I didn't take anything from that.
No, right. It was definitely a joke, right? I'm a firm believer that all good jokes contain real shit, and
that's
the
fair.
The joke would have landed, or let me not say land. The joke would have been all right, but then when you factor in what his wife said on multiple occasions on his show about Jalen Hurts, now I didn't
see that.
Oh, you didn't see that. See, now your opinion. Now watch your opinion change here.
I need context.
Watch your opinion change here. Prior to him coming out with this pretty privilege thing,
okay,
his wife appeared on his show at least twice. And
always a problem.
And Jalen Hurts came up.
Okay.
And the way she was fawning over Jalen Hurts, oh man, I wish I was in that tush push pile. Oh, Jalen Hurts, he's so handsome, he mature. You know, Shador Sanders, you know, he's young, but he's a baby, right? But Jalen Hurts, he's mature, like all this kind of stuff. Just fawning over this brother.
Really?
And Dominique is just sitting there like, I mean, yeah, you know,
I gotta watch.
You gotta watch it, brother. You gotta
I didn't see
watch it. I'm telling you.
I did not have that context.
And remind you, this came prior to the pretty privileged comments.
Gotcha.
So, because you know the internet they're gonna find the details.
Internet is undefeated.
And when when your wife is farting like that over a brother, and then
you're gonna feel some kind of way.
And then Dak Prescott is your cousin, right? For the Cowboys, he's your cousin. When you put all that to the pot, it's like, oh, how can you really be fair about covering Jalen Hurts? How can you?
I did not know that.
How can you be unbiased? He said he's benefiting from pretty privilege. He batting his eyebrow, he batting his eyelash. It's like yo, I'm like, yo, like, and then he talking about we can't take a joke. Philly just start going in on him, joking on him.
Oh my God!
So who can't take the joke, right? And then
I got to find that footage. I got to see that.
All you got to do is type in Dominique Foxworth, Jalen Hurts, man, and then No,
I got to see the one with his wife. I saw the pretty privileged comment.
No, it's gonna pop up. It's gonna pop up.
All right, I got to find it.
It's gonna pop up. But yeah, that's the context, right? So again, man, the bottom line is this Eagles team, as long as they know who they are, that's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters, man.
We cover this team more than any one of those national guys can cover this team. You know what I mean? We're locked in. We watch the press conferences. We watch the interviews. We watch the mic'd ups. We watch the unscripted. Right? We see how close this team is. I was watching the unscripted earlier this week with the Georgia boys. You know, they was having like a Secret Santa thing. They was giving out gifts and they was just talking about, you know, being together, how it was important for them and how it was so important for Jalen Carter to just be with his guys and all that kind of stuff. And like these guys are more together than what the media is portraying them to be.
Exactly.
And it's unfortunate, but they're going to find out the harder way. And the Commanders are running into a buzzsaw, like I said every week, Marcus. I know you're probably tired of me saying it.
Nah.
The Commanders are running into a buzzsaw. They're running up against a highly motivated Eagles team. I look at that Panthers game, or that Steelers game, rather, as kind of like a reset, right? I personally feel like the win streak starts over. Yeah. Just based off how they won that game, how dominant they were, coming off of that Panthers game and the drama, I look at this as a whole new season, a whole new win streak.
Yeah, I don't worry about what the outside perspective is, because I know most of the outside perspective doesn't study our game. Everything is a production. Somebody's shoving papers and stats in front of your face, but there's not too many people who's watching the game. So I will always be okay with what everybody jokes with me, because you know I said if Jalen Hurts is not in your top 5 quarterbacks, the answer is yes. Whatever you think, I don't care, because you know whatever you think about Jaden Daniels right now. At 1:00 today, them two jokers gonna be on the same field, trying to achieve the same goal, and we gonna see what's what. So Jalen Carter gonna have something to say about Jaden Daniels, and the Washington defense is gonna have something to say about Jalen Hurts. So we gonna see what's what, and we gonna see who makes the least amount of mistakes, and all of that stuff y'all been talking, rightfully so, because that's your team. But we gonna see if they put it into practice, because we've been through this with Baltimore. We've been through this with Pittsburgh. Getting picked and lost because Pittsburgh's a better team, Baltimore's a better team. What you gonna do with Derrick Henry? What you gonna do with Lamar Jackson? And moving the goalposts. You're good, but we got somebody better. You're good, but we got somebody better.
What you gonna do against the Rams in that passing attack? What you gonna do?
Exactly. And every time we've stepped up to the challenge, we've met the challenge, and we came out with the win. It's all that matters. So if Jalen Hurts is ranked 16th in your quarterbacks in the league, go ahead. Because all them quarterbacks that's throwing from all of them yards ain't got all of them wins. That's what I'm talking about. So y'all can bitch, moan, and complain about how Jalen Hurts can't do X, Y, and Z. You know, cue the DJ Khaled music, bro. All we do is win. All we do is win. So that's all I don't care about all the other stuff. You still got people comparing and talking about how Tua is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Yeah, y'all run with that. Okay? Y'all run with Josh Allen. All I know is Jalen Hurts been to more Super Bowls than Josh Allen. So guess what? Everybody's still trying to get to where he has been. And it's looking like we have an opportunity to go back. So Eagles, keep doing what you're doing. Block out the outside noise, because that's exactly what it is, just outside noise.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. let's start to close this thing out, man. Let's get to our keys to the game, our bold predictions, and our score predictions. So what are your keys to the game, offensively and defensively, for the Philadelphia Eagles? If the Eagles are going to win this game, what do they have to do in your eyes?
Let's start on defense. As we saw with Jaden Daniels in the first game, as we saw with Bryce Young against Carolina, our edges, Nolan Smith, Zach Bond, when he's, coming or on the edge, or if he's back in linebacker, Milt Williams, whoever's going to be on that other side, you have to be disciplined, because we've seen in the last couple of weeks when those quarterbacks try to slip underneath and we get them. But if you watch the Pittsburgh game, we had some good success off the edge and what they were doing. That's discipline. You only come up to quarterback level, and then you can use your skills and you can bounce outside or jump inside depending on what the QB does. We have to do that because Jaden Daniels was slipping underneath us a lot of times, and you don't want to give him an extra opportunity. Take away those opportunities. That's number one. Jalen Carter is going to be paramount this game because you looking at a center who's going to be hobbled. Can we take advantage of that? I still think he is going to elicit a double team. So again, Nolan Smith, Milt Williams, Josh Sweat, they got to eat. For all those people that were worried about Fletch retiring, how many sacks does Josh Sweat have this year?
8.
Fletch only had 5 last year. And we still got 3 games to go.
Milton got 5 this year. Think about that.
Absolutely.
Carter got 4.5, I think.
So again, shout out to Howie, because he knows where to put people in place. He knows all the people that didn't want to re-sign. They thought Josh Sweat was the expendable one and not Hassan Reddick. Wow. Look how that turned out. So defense got to do what they do. Again, Nakobe, Zach Bond, just continue to do what you've been doing. You guys have been, to say you've been stellar is an understatement. It's an understatement. Zach Bond is Defensive Player of the Year in my book. And the shameful part about it is they're not going to give it to him because his name's not picking up, which is bullshit. So look at the stats. Look at how he played. Look at how he played against good teams and good competition. That should be the only thing you judging it off of. But it is what it is. Secondary, please, Slay, stay on the field, brother.
Yeah, man. And
don't get caught up trying to block an offensive lineman or a tight end like you did last week. That's what I mean when I always say you're gonna lose the battle of physics. You're gonna lose. You can't win that battle, bro. You can't win that battle. The only thing you can do is fall on your back and try to do a Star Trek flip kick. That's all you're gonna do, because that dude gonna run you. So I would have rather see him try to dip inside or outside or make the dude miss. But our secondary, CJ Gardner-Johnson has been playing very physical football.
Well, man.
I'm loving it. Coop has been good. I need him to do a better job on special teams. But for the most part, our defensive secondary has been really, really good. And let's just keep that up. Slay, stay on the field. I know you've been getting dinged up, but man,
he's been playing well.
At 33 years old, when Slay is on the field, he is balling. He is balling. He is running with number 1 receivers at 33 years old. Slay's speed is underappreciated. So they just need to keep doing what they're doing on defense. On offense, ain't nothing changed. Get the ball to Saquon off tackle, please. Keep hitting AJ Brown on the quick slants. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Hit AJ Brown on the quick slants. Give the ball to Saquon Barkley off tackle and outside before you try to run up the middle. That's all I'm saying. Everything else will take care of itself.
I love it. Let's get to your bold prediction, though. Right? Let's get to the let's sensationalize this. Let's get inflammatory, right? What do you give me something different? Give me something that might not happen, but hey, if it does happen, that'd be a hell of a sight, right? What's your bold prediction for this game?
Well, I think this will be the game that Quinyon gets his pick, because, like we talked about earlier, they are going to try to go to Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin still has that bad taste in his mouth from what we did to him the first time. We shut him down, and I mean all the way down. Yeah. And he is itching to get that to get that monkey off his back.
Was that his worst game against the Eagles in his career?
I think so. I think so. So I'm going to be looking at that matchup between Terry McLaurin, and they're going to do just like they did with AJ Brown. They're going to try to force feed him the ball, and they're going to make Quinyon work. And I think because of that, Jay Daniels is going to make a mistake. So I'm thinking Quinyon Mitchell is going to get his first pick guarding Terry McLaurin today because they're going to try to force the ball to Terry McLaurin.
Okay. And by the way, they are without Austin Eckler as well in that passing game. He's a key part of that. You know, he's really the check down guy more so than Brian Robinson is. He's their power guy, but Austin Eckler, he's on IR, dealing with concussion symptoms and neck pain. So, and by the way, Zach Ertz will be playing today, so he is going to have Jane Daniels will have a security blanket in Zach Ertz. My bold prediction for this game here. I don't know if this is even bold, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think Saquon Barkley goes for over 200 yards from scrimmage.
Woo, love it.
Over 200 yards from scrimmage. I mean, and he can get that in any combination. 150 rushing, 50 receiving, 125 rushing, 75 receiving, however it may be. But I think this is going to be a game where we see, because remember, I don't know if you peeped this, the Eagles elevated their fullback today.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they elevated that.
The guy that just signed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
was that last week?
Yeah. Now, granted, we don't know how many snaps he'll get. He's only been on the field for one offensive snap. He's been on special teams more so, but they elevated him in this game. We'll see what they do with that. But I think this is a game where Saquon Barkley goes for over 200 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. Kind of
digging it.
Yeah. That's how I'm looking at it. And I think AJ Brown goes for over 100 yards. So that's my bold prediction.
I don't think AJ Brown. I think it's going to be Smitty today.
Interesting, because Smitty normally is the one that goes off against the commies. But I'll roll with AJ Brown over 100 yards. Saquon over 200 yards from scrimmage. I'll roll with that. Now, do you have a score prediction?
Nah, not really. And I've been trying to think about it, and at this point, I don't care. It's as long as it's too much to not enough Eagles. That's all I want to see.
Mark, you really owe him, man. You really
owe him, man. That stuff. But I will say, I will see your 200 yards with Saquon, and I'm going to say 2 touchdowns. Or I'm going to see at least one and maybe a tush push because Saquon's luck. He's been getting down to like inside the 3-yard line, and then they don't even give him the opportunity to run it in. But so I'm going to say I'm going to say 31. I'm going to say 31-17.
I made a prediction earlier this week, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But I think it was along the lines of Eagles 33, Commanders 20, something like that. I can't remember, but I'm going to roll with that. Eagles 33, Commanders 20. That's my score prediction for this game. And
Blunt, I got a question for you, Blunt, because we were going back and forth last night when I was watching the UConn game last night.
Right.
What makes, because I see this a lot, and I agree with it. Washington is going to be fired up for this game, but why does everybody think that the Eagles won't be? And why is the Eagles' fire less than Washington's fire?
So basically, what you're saying is like you believe a statement like this, like it's inherently indicating that the Eagles won't be able to match that fire,
right? Because when you think about it realistically, they cancel each other out. So now what it's going to come down to is who's got the better team. I'm expecting our defense, our offense to play as good as they played last week, if not better. That's my expectation. If they do that, why would we not win this game? Our defense is better than their offense. Our offense should be, when we play, if we play like we played last week, our offense is better than their defense. Why shouldn't we win this game? I don't care how much fire they come out with. Fire is not going to help you guard A.J. Brown or stop Saquon Barkley or hold Jalen Carter from the quarterback. Fire is not going to do that. So when people say that, yeah, they're going to be fired up. Yeah, that's why I said that Terry McLaurin's going to be fired up. But guess what? You don't think Quinyon Mitchell still been watching tape? It goes both ways. So it's going to come down to when they get on the field, I'm expecting that same type of fire and passion from the Eagles. And why wouldn't I?
Right. I feel you on that. You guys, this has been a hell of a show, man. We really appreciate you guys for locking in for as long as you guys did it. You know, we normally keep these shows like around an hour. We reached the hour and 15-minute mark, and again, the conversation is always great when I'm talking to you, Marcus. Like this is gonna be a fun game, man. It's gonna be competitive. It's divisional, right? You know, the Eagles can lock up not only the division with this win, but they can secure the number 2 seed, and at that point, you know, they're safe. You know, their floor is the number 2 seed, and I'm going to be really excited to see how these guys play, man, especially on defense. I think the defense is going to be the reason why we end up winning it all. Right. And I know some people like to take it week by week or game by game. Listen, I'm not playing. I ain't got to take it week by week. You know what I'm saying? What I say has no bearing on that football team. I'm excited. I ain't scared of nobody. I believe anybody can get it. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't claim it, somebody else will. So
somebody else will.
I'm putting it into the universe, right? If y'all want to continue to take it game by game, y'all do that. I'll see y'all at the finish line, right? I have my feet kicked up, but with some Mai tais. You feel me?
Check this out though.
Yes, sir.
I played with Clyde Simmons, Seth Joyner, Willie T, Byron Evans, Andre Waters, Wes Hopkins, Eric Allen, Mark McMillan, Eric McMillan, Keith Millard, The Fridge. I played with all of those guys who were on defense. I was a running back. But that was my defense when I played in the 90s. So I do not say this lightly. This is arguably the best defense I've seen the Eagles ever have.
You guys, bask in that. Don't run from it. Don't run from greatness. Bask in that. And on that note, y'all, we appreciate y'all. You guys have been locked in on the Eagles pregame show featuring Coach Markus from Pro Fan Talk. Smash that like button. Smash that like button. And by the way, smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Coach Markus at Pro Fan Talk. And make sure you guys are locked in. I've been your humble host, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Hey, Marcus.
Go Birds.
Spin that shit.
Merry Christmas.
In the city of Philly, where the birds take flight, Eagle swag on the rise each and every night. Tone and Marcus got the scoop ready to ignite. From the lanes of South Street to the Broad Street lights. Dashing like a running back, hitting every play. Blind guys in the zone, never led astray. Talking touchdowns, talking game day. Huddle around the mic, hear what they gotta say. Fly like an eagle soaring in the sky. Tone and Marcus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry. Fly like an eagle soars in the sky. Tone and Marcus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die.